Hello, welcome to the show. It's another busy one. You know, there are some things with the word virus that are actually good things when things go viral on Twitter, as they have done this week. And my word, there was a Sheffield Wednesday player I bet that most fans had never heard of until this week. And now his name has gone around the world thanks to social media, but mostly thanks to himself and his family and his remarkable recovery from a debilitating disease in childhood that really should have meant that he had no kind of athletic career at all. And yet, last weekend, he made his debut as a footballer for Sheffield Wednesday's first team in an FA Cup victory at Exeter. I'm proud to welcome his dad, Declan Thompson, Lee, onto the show today, and also an Owls legend, Carlton Palmer. Before I go to you, Lee, and your recollection of last weekend and the emotion of it, see the video, by the way. That's where you are. You were aware of this, of course, as well.
Yeah, no, obviously I didn't know about his story. Obviously, I saw it on Twitter that he'd made his debut for Sheffield Wednesday, and then I actually Googled it. I saw the video, and then I just actually Googled it, and then just read about his story, which is quite incredible, really. And in this present climate where everybody's a bit down and things are a bit tough, it's a massive.
It's a really, really heartwarming story. Lee, you're a school teacher. We've caught you during a rare, less than busy time, shall we say. What's it been like since Saturday and that video went out? What's it been like for you?
It's been mental, to be honest. Obviously, the people retweeting it, lots of people like getting in touch, and people from all over the world obviously saying that their children have got the same disease as what Dec had, and just people passing on stories. And it's just the video was just meant for me to say how proud I was. Never expected it to go where it has.
Yeah, Perthes disease is the illness, which I'm guessing most people hadn't heard of. But it did mean that Declan was in a wheelchair at one stage of his childhood for some time. That was when he was 11 years old, Lee. I'm
no, it were young. He was 7, and he were coming home from school, having played football at break time and dinner time, and he was just saying his legs were hurting him. So myself and his mum just thought he were getting growing pains, and it ended up where he was really getting upset. And one day I remember, he was crying on sofa in pain. We carried him to bed, gave him some Calpol. Next day he got up and he was in agony, and we took him to hospital. And literally the Sheffield Children's Hospital were brilliant with him. They diagnosed it within 2 or 3 days. Tried to start treatment as soon as we could. He had numerous operations, plates in his legs, pins. He says he's got a big scar that goes from the top of his hip down to his just above his knee, and when we go on holiday, he always used to tell everybody it was a shark bite.
Right, Carlton. I mean, it's hard. It's hard enough to become a professional footballer at the best of times, even with good health, even with total fitness. It's still really about desire, isn't it?
Listen. Like as I say, I've read his story, and he was determined to become a professional footballer, you know. And if you look at in the history of football and successful footballers, they come from deprived backgrounds, they've come from adversity, and it gives them that, you know, that extra added determination, push to achieve what they want to achieve. You know, it's almost like a spur for them to go on to achieve the things that they go on and to achieve. So, yeah, I mean, to be a pro footballer in any walk of life is tough. It's got tougher now because of the way the game's gone with the foreigners and so forth. So it's a magnificent achievement, and it's not just for sport. And I think that's why it's gone viral. I think with what's happening around the world, the pandemic, it's just an inspiration to everybody to never give in. I've always had that attitude anyhow, so I can identify that. But to never give in and keep working at your dreams, and you never know, you might get a break, and anything's possible.
As demonstrated last weekend, and just before we go on, let's just have a look at that video clip that went viral. I think there's only about 35 seconds of it, but every time I watch it, it brings a tear to my eye. Let's have a look.
Yes! Yes! Declan! Come on, boy! Declan Thompson coming up.
I think that's
Lee, just tell us what your emotions were. And in fact, I don't think that you were aware that video was being taken, were you?
No, my little daughter, she's 2 years old, and when they were warming up at half time, she saw Declan on the TV, and she started shouting, "It's Declan, it's Declan, it's Declan." So my partner got her old phone out and started recording, shouting it at the TV. And then I went into the kitchen to get myself a drink just after half time. And unbeknown to me, she'd set it up to record for the full second half.
You weren't embarrassed though, were you? Us men are told that we should show our emotions more often.
No, it was a strange scenario for me, because I didn't know I was going to cry. I went really hot, and then my eyes just started. I was like, wow. And then obviously when she told me she'd recorded it, I was like, oh, okay, bit embarrassed, and then I thought, no, why should you be?
No. Well, you've had the likes of Louis Tomlinson retweeting it, and Matt Letizia, and it's gone everywhere. Carlton, you know, were there tears in your family when you made your professional debut?
I can't remember. Listen, I think it was almost expected by my mum and dad, to be fair, because I was that driven. It was no surprise to them, to be honest with you, for me to have done what I've done, because they knew that I was focused on that from the age of 12, and I was that driven. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was a very emotional time, you know, with it being West Brom and being my hometown club, and the club I used to go every weekend and watch from the terraces. So yeah, I mean, obviously it was a very, very special moment, you know.
Well, it's a time of opportunity, Carlton, for young players at Sheffield Wednesday, and Declan's not the only one who's getting his first taste of it. I mean, it can sometimes be a better environment for kids if a club is not doing particularly well. I mean, it's not as if too many players select themselves at the moment. Big opportunity, do you think?
Yeah, obviously. You know, you've always, listen, I made my debut at West Brom through an opportunity when Jimmy Nicholl was injured on Republic of Ireland duty. So this is how your opportunities come along, and you have to grab them. You know, somebody gets injured, you know, problems like, you know, you look at Liverpool with Van Dijk out, with the problems with centre-halves, it gives the opportunity, you know, to a young lad to come in, and sometimes the club finds out they have a gem where they possibly wouldn't have thrown that kid in otherwise, because they have the finances to go out and buy somebody. But this is what you have to do. I always believe this though, Alan, and I've always said this. I've got 4 children. I've always said this. If you work hard enough, if you keep grafting, if you keep persevering, you get a break somewhere along the line. You do. And I honestly believe that. If you're really determined and you're really serious about what you're doing, you get a break somewhere along the line. But you've got to keep at it. You've got to keep at it. You've got to keep at it. You've got to take your knocks. You've got to take your disappointments. And it's how you come back from those disappointments. And unfortunately, you know, as much as I'm not a big fan of social media, because as good social media does, it also paints a picture that is unrealistic, that a lot of famous people tweet or on, on other social media forums, and all it shows is flash cars, big houses, all the material things. There's much more to being successful as a sportsman, as a human being. The byproduct of being successful is all of those things. The hardship, I mean, I think Tyson Fury tweeted yesterday, is that nobody sees the 3 months preparation you go through for 36 minutes of work. All they see is the 36 minutes of work in a boxing ring, whether you win or whether you lose, the hard work that you have to go through. And I think the social media platform could be more positive, like the story about Declan, showing people, that these things can be achieved, rather than, painting a picture to too many youngsters these days that life's easy. It's not easy. If you're going to be successful, I don't know one person who's successful in life who's not been through the trenches. I mean, I was speaking to Kel Brook. Funny enough, Kel called me yesterday, and I was speaking to Kel, and we were talking about exactly the same thing. What you have to go through, the disappointment, the heartache, and then picking yourself up to go again.
Yeah, as you have at many stages of your career. We'll talk in a minute about what's been a great start, actually. Turning of the year has changed the fortunes of both Sheffield clubs, both Wednesday and United. But before we do that, Lee, what are your hopes now for young Declan? I mean, he's an 18-year-old defender, centre-back, I believe. Not had the pleasure of seeing him play myself. I mean, as a proud dad, and of course you're assistant manager of Stocksbridge Park Steels. You've got a background in football yourself, steeped in it. What are your hopes for young Dec now?
I just want him to do the best he can. End of the day, we never expected him to play football, so every game is a bonus. To see him play one league game was a bonus. Well, my dad, all he wanted to see me was play one league game. Luckily, I had quite a few more. I just want him to step up and step on. And end of the day, he's got to do what he does best, and that's not get big-headed about it all. Just take everything in his stride and just push on. Yeah.
Let's hope he does exactly that. And in your case, I mean, you began your career at. I mean, dare I tell people watching this where you began your career, Lee?
No, feel free.
Are you gonna tell people, or am I?
Well, I originally started off at Denby United. As a youngster, and then I ended up getting picked up by Ilkeston. I had one game under Keith Alexander, who were a massive influence on my early career. Then got signed by Neil Warnock at Sheffield United.
You've said it. That could have gone better then.
No, it were obviously I was working under Neil and Kevin for quite a while, and it was really good. Really enjoyed my time under them too. Great, massive characters in football, and obviously you learn a lot from them.
Yeah. What are your allegiances going back? Your son's a Sheffield Wednesday player.
Yeah. Obviously, I love football, and obviously, as Carlton will vouch for me. When you sign for a club, that club is who you support, and nothing will change that. So when I was playing for Sheffield United, travelling to games, or when we're playing against Wednesday reserve team, youth team, I supported United. Whereas, obviously, my allegiance has always been to Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, but the great thing about this story is tribalism doesn't exist. I think it's fair to say you've had as many, or almost as many, congratulatory messages and appreciation from Sheffield United supporters as you have from Sheffield Wednesday. And going to Carlton, I mean, that is one positive about social media. When a story like this comes along, who you support doesn't matter, and nor should it really.
No, it's not about who you support. I've got to be honest with you, Big Z. I've lived in Sheffield. You know, I signed for Sheffield Wednesday as a young kid, and I've lived in Sheffield. And to be honest with you, I've never really encountered anything with Sheffield United supporters. You know, we've had the odd banter now and then. My best man's a big Blade, you know. My best friends in Sheffield have been Blades, you know, Pemberton, Beasley. I used to go out with Gailey and all of those guys. So, you know, the rivalry, you know, was between the clubs. The rivalry, listen, when it became match day, there was no love lost between us. You've seen that on the pitch and without that. But off there, you know, I've got to be honest with you, a lot of the boys at Sheffield United, Charlie Hartfield, people like that, you know them, they're all down-to-earth blokes. And we were the same at Sheffield Wednesday. We often were seen out having a pint with each other. You know, as I said to you, I've never really encountered any kind of, you know, anything against me because I played for Sheffield Wednesday. Not really. I mean, the clubs, you support who you support. And that's probably the beauty of why I love Sheffield and why I've stayed there for as long as I have done.
Although you're in China at the moment, living and working in China, it must be frustrating, just before we go on with the football, not to be able to travel freely because of your connections with this country and with this city. I'm sure you'd love to be back here for a pint of the black stuff, as you call it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, you know, part of the reason when we came out here, the attraction was that we could get back relatively often, every 12 weeks. Well, we came back in March, the 20th, and we'll not be able to fly back till the 1st of July, which is a long time. And that's prompted my wife, you know, to hand in a notice to come back now because obviously the kids and the grandkids. You know, I have to say, the mess that the UK is in at the moment, and I did say this to people on a podcast I did in January when I first came back, that they had no idea what was in store for them. You know, we are free in Shanghai. We have no restrictions. Schools are open, clubs are open, bars are open, football matches are being played. Everything's been done because, you know, when the lockdown was done here from the first beginning, 3 months lockdown, everything was shut down. People weren't, and when people are told not to go out here in China, they don't go out. If people are told to wear masks, they wear masks. And I'm sorry, I know that a lot of people are talking about the lack of leadership with the government. Listen, I got no time for Boris Johnson, but the people voted him in because they wanted Brexit. He was never interested in Brexit until he thought he could become Prime Minister. And now they're complaining about him not being a good leader. Now this pandemic has come along. What do you expect? But still, people have got to take responsibility. And I'm gutted for them now. I know, you know, we've had to bury somebody. We haven't been able to get back for Lucy's grandfather's funeral, who's died of COVID. My uncle's now in ICT. So we've had, you know, to suffer the pain. And, you know, the people have to understand that they live in a democratic society. He's allowed people to make their choices. And a lot of people have made bad choices. And that's what's caused the problem in the UK. Simple as.
Carlton, commiserations, sympathies to what you've gone through as a family. I think it's beginning to touch most of the population adversely, but at least there, in terms of free living in Shanghai, again, you've given us a glimpse of what hopefully we can look forward to later in 2021. On the brighter side of life, Sheffield Wednesday, 4 victories in 5 currently. All of a sudden, Sheffield United, the first 2 victories of the season. Things have just changed almost overnight. And that can happen in football, can't it?
Well, certainly with Sheffield United, I saw that coming. I've actually felt for Chris Wilder a little bit. They've been so close in games. They've been in games. And, you know, in the Premiership, it's unforgiving. It really is. You make one mistake, you know. I mean, I've played in the Premier League where, you know, you might be running the game for 89 minutes and in the 90th minute, you know, the person on the other side comes up with a bit of magic. That's the Premier League. And unfortunately for Chris, this season, his side's been nearly there. And they've got that result now. I still think it's a tall order now for them to stay up, but that might give them some momentum, because if they're saying West Brom can stay up, Sam Allardyce has never been relegated, then if West Brom can stay up, so can Sheffield United. But, you know, they'll need to have the rub of the green, and they'll need to get some back-to-back results.
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday, 4 wins in 5 through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. They've all been tight victories, and they've all come at a difficult time with the club not having a permanent manager. We'll come on to that a little bit later in part 2, if I may. But just as we close part 1, Lee, Stockbridge Park Steels and your experiences there, and how tough it's been. And of course, at the moment, you're completely grounded once again. It's been stop-start all the way, hasn't it?
Yeah, with looks of things, it's going to be a second season in a row where the season's not going to end, which is disappointing, because the lads, we've got a great set of lads up there, me and Chris Hilton, and they work really hard for each other. Like in the summer, we did loads of charity work for raising money for the club. Maybe alarms are going off at school. That'll just be a second.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Lee. We'll release you at that point to do a far more important job and a far more worthwhile thing for society than talking programme. But it's been wonderful for you to come on. Congratulations to you and the family. And you've given us, you know, one of the unforgettable moments in sport, I think, with that story of your son. And long may his career continue and flourish from here. Lee, thanks very much indeed for joining us, mate.
Thanks ever so much, Alan. Take care, Carlton.
Cheers now.
Take care. Congratulations. Give him all my best.
Will do. Thanks very much.
As we head to the break, Carlton, just briefly, are you surprised by the mini turnaround in Sheffield Wednesday, or did you see that coming as well?
I saw it coming. You know, Tony Pulis is a good manager, and that's coming. You've got to understand that for Neil, who's taken over, he's under no pressure. It's easy for him to, you know, not easy, and I don't want to be disrespectful to him, because I like Neil and I think he's a good coach. But when you see how many managers who take the caretaker role over and they get results, because they're not in the hot seat where they're really facing the pressure. As soon as you give them the job, the results change. It's happened so many times, you know. He's under no pressure. He's free to do as he's done. Obviously, he knows the players well. He gets on really well with the players. I know that for a fact, and they've responded that way. But you're seeing that on the results the day that Tony got the sack. I mean, they got a fantastic result, the draw, and he was still relieved of his duties. So, you know.
Yeah, that's football. Well, part 2, we'll talk maybe about the manager search and what do you think about the favourite? One or two of the runners. Paul Cook is the favourite at the moment. Certainly the guy that I think is best for the job, but that's just one opinion. I'll get yours. And also on the background to things at Sheffield United. It's been politically a turbulent time, can I say that? Topics for part 2, when James Gregg will also join us, of course. He was an anxious blade last week. He's less anxious this week, but we'll talk about his feelings about the way things are going at Bramall Lane. Do rejoin us in a couple of minutes. See you then.